there has been a social media storm. It started brewing yesterday when it was announced, or days ago, really, when it was announced that the National Association of Black Journalists, NABJ, would be welcoming Donald J. Trump, former president of the United States, current candidate for the presidency of the United States, and overall a piece of human garbage. It was announced that NABJ would be inviting Mr. Trump for an interview. As I mentioned last night, the interview would be held by 3 Black journalists, all Black women journalists, which I thought was sort of interesting and noteworthy, and I thought kind of powerful, right? NABJ welcomes, this was the ad, NABJ welcomes U.S. President Donald J. Trump for a special conversation in Chicago. Rachel Scott from ABC News, Harris Faulkner from Fox News, and Kadia Goba Semaphore, forgive me, Kadia. And all 3 of them are very impressive journalists. All of them are gifted journalists. Kadia Goba is the politics writer for Semaphore, and she's covered Congress. She's been at Axios, BuzzFeed News. She's been in a lot of places. She is no joke. You know what I mean? She's a serious person. Harris Faulkner is a longtime vet at Fox News, and Rachel Scott is an ABC News journalist, reporter, and somebody that people know very well. So it wasn't about the qualifications of the journalists. It was about whether or not we wanted Donald Trump at our event. And I say our because I am a longtime member of the National Association of Black Journalists. And for some of us, the position was Donald Trump is a terrible human being. He is a threat to democracy. He is an enemy of the free press. And he has had a particular type of disrespect that he has offered or demonstrated to Black journalists in particular. And when you have somebody like that who doesn't respect us, doesn't like us, has never pretended to, oh, that's not true. He pretended to in the 90s when we were just rappers, right? But ever since he got all MAGA'd out, he hasn't. So what do you do in the face of that? Well, a lot of us say, well, if Donald Trump hates us, doesn't like us, why would we allow him into our space, which is a healing space, which is a productive space, which is a community space? If anybody who's a journalist knows NABJ, it's a convention. We talk, we meet, we learn, we network, and then there's a sports party. We turn up. All of it is how Black journalists and Black aspiring journalists carry on this long and beautiful tradition of Black truth-telling in the media. Why do we want to sully our space with Donald Trump? Why do we want to legitimize Donald Trump in our space? He hates us. He assaults us. Why do we want him there? The other side of it is we are journalists. And how dare we look at a presidential election and not participate in our capacity as journalists? We just gonna let the white folk ask all the questions? We're gonna let the mainstream white platforms and the white or media outlets or the specialized partisan media outlets, the Fox Newses of the world, or the special interests, the evangelical, that's a faith community, but I'm saying in terms of they're bringing Donald Trump in to talk about abortion, they're bringing him in to talk about stem cell research, they're bringing him in to talk about marriage equality, they're bringing him in to talk about, those kinds of issues. Are we going to let them be the only people that Donald Trump talks to? Donald Trump loves ducking the media. Donald Trump hates accountability. Donald Trump hates to be questioned. So why not bring him into our house? Since you need our votes to win, you don't need a lot of our votes, but you need some of them. Why not bring him in and ask him the tough questions? And since some Black folk, for some reason, still want to vote for Donald Trump, why don't we show them just how trifling Donald Trump is? So those are the competing arguments. Those are the debates. That's the struggle. Do we bring Donald Trump in? And when we bring Donald Trump in, what do we do? Because some people say, yeah, black journalists should interview Donald Trump, but it shouldn't be at NABJ. But the truth is, where else is he going to go? Is he going to go to Breakfast Club? I'd love him to go to Breakfast Club. Is he going to go? Is he going to come to night school? I don't know. Is he going to pop up on BET or TV One? I hope so. But the reality is we had a chance to pin him down at NABJ. Do we take it? Well, that was the debate. People were firing, or people were quitting, people were dropping out, people were stepping down from their official positions at NABJ because they believed that Donald Trump shouldn't be there. My position, to be clear, is I don't think it's wrong to hold Donald Trump accountable at NABJ, to invite him and ask him the right questions. But there has to be real clarity on what the questions are going to be, what our approach is going to be, and we can't take no shorts on, as they say in the 90s, right? We can't let him bully us, we can't let him filibuster, and we can't tolerate disrespect. When he disrespects us in our house, we show him that it's our house. Well, today at NABJ, none of that happened. Donald Trump came and showed his whole ass. He disrespected the space, he disrespected the format, he disrespected the tradition, and he disrespected those black women on the stage. And it didn't take him long to get cooking. It started at the beginning when Rachel Scott from ABC News asked Donald Trump to explain why black voters should take him seriously, given his, and particularly this room of black journalists, given the fact that Donald Trump has had such an antagonistic and frankly disrespectful relationship to the black media. Here's what she said. Here was his response.
Like animal and rabbit to dis is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and you know, and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe that black voters should trust you with another 4 years.
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. My answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Woo. Okay. There are a few things happening there. I'm going to break down every piece of it. First, Donald Trump's response to the question, which was posed by Rachel Scott, begins with just unrestrained vitriol. It was very clear from the moment Donald Trump opened his mouth that he did not like those women. He liked Harris Faulkner, of course, but he did not like the other two women up there, and that he resented being there. Let's start there. The woman Rachel asked a quite reasonable question, which was, given your history of disrespecting Black journalists, of hanging with racists, of doing all these other things, why should we trust you with another 4 years? Why should we vote for you? Now, instead of just answering the question, Donald Trump goes into whining mode. He goes into excuse mode, and he goes into bull in a china shop mode. Let me be more specific. The first thing he does, of course, is to say, well, let me say that this is just basically like, this is the worst question I've ever been asked. You say that about everything, right? He's like such hyperbole. He said, you didn't say hi. You didn't ask how I was doing. Look, I don't think, as a journalist myself, when I sit down with anybody, I say, hey, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. I don't necessarily say, how are you? Maybe if I'm in person with them and it's a little more relaxed, I might say, how you doing? How you been? But I don't think I have to ask how you're doing. I don't think that's required as a journalist, neither by the letter of our our codes or even by convention. That's just not what we do. What Donald Trump was mad about was that he was about to be asked a question other than, why are you so awesome? That's all he wants to be asked. Anything other than that, Donald Trump don't want to answer it. Donald Trump then proceeds to talk about the things that he has done for Black people. Some people said, including, and this is where I disagree with Rachel. Some people said Donald Trump never answered the question. In fact, she said to him, Donald Trump, can you please answer the question? He said, I did answer the question. And then he reiterated and took it up a notch and said, I'm the greatest president for Black people since Abraham Lincoln, a claim that he's made before. Let's be very clear. Donald Trump did answer the question. It's wrong to say Donald Trump didn't answer the question. What I would have liked to see was a follow-up, because basically, if you say, look, Donald Trump, you've disrespected us, you've lied on us, you've hung with racists, you've justified acts of racism, why should I vote for you? And he says, well, HBCUs, opportunity zones, economic prosperity, then basically what he's saying is, you should ignore my racism because I make you money. That's effectively what he is answering the question. So I would like to see a clarification of that question where you say, so are you suggesting that your administration's victories serve as justification for the things that I mentioned? Because Donald Trump never addressed the accusations. He never denied the accusations. He just said, look, I gave y'all money. What y'all tripping about? What are you Negroes mad at? So that's the other part of it. Donald Trump complained about them starting 35 minutes late. And he complained constantly throughout the 36-minute interview about the machinery not working. What he was effectively doing was trying to discredit the event, discredit the NABJ, and because Donald Trump is a pathological liar, the claim itself about things being late left out a few details. He left out a few details. Yes, the event was late. That's a fact. But why? Why was the event late? Well, I'll tell you why. According to my sources at the NABJ, numerous sources at the NABJ, Donald Trump agreed to show up. The organization insisted on live fact checking. Donald Trump rejected live fact checking. And so for 35 minutes, they were in a quote standoff. They were in a standoff. So it wasn't that these Negroes showed up late to a professional event, which is what you would think. I mean, no, I don't know. CPT is one thing, right? And coaches all around the world have their own versions of social time perspective, which is what it actually is. If you look up psychology. But black folk don't show up late to this kind of stuff. Black folk got home training. We got good sense. We have respect, and we are quite capable. Every Sunday at church, Sunday service starts on time. Every Friday at Jumu'ah, we start on time. We know when to show up on time and when to be okay. We show up to work on time, black people on the whole, right? We don't all disappear. Black folks start on time. But Donald Trump is kind of smuggling in this idea that, oh, these Negroes start late and they got broke equipment. No, Mr. Trump. That's not true. It's simply not true. Donald Trump went to his Truth Social account. You know, that's his what do you call it? I guess fake. It's like a one-man Twitter, right? And he said, I've been waiting for a half hour. The speaker equipment at the NABJ is not working properly. Don't blame me for being late. That was his argument. He wanted people to know that. And I get why. I would do the same thing. If I were late starting, I wouldn't want all these people to think that Donald Trump disrespected the event by not showing up on time, which is what people would assume. And I mean, Donald Trump has given us reason to believe that he would do that. But no, that wasn't it at all. Philip Lewis reported this earlier. Lots of people, Roland Martin reported this. My brother, shout out to Roland. Lots of people reported this. I'm going to bring it up for you so you can see it more clearly. Same thing. I'm told that Donald Trump is demanding that NABJ not do the live fact checking. That's why the event hasn't started yet. We're in a standoff was the quote on the ground. This was the problem, Mr. Trump. You weren't disrespected because it started late. It started late because you were disrespecting us by telling us as journalists we can't do our job by fact checking. In debates, we fact check. ABC debates, NBC debates, Fox News debates, they can fact check. Why would you not do that here? Anyway, in that response, Donald Trump also complains about Kamala Harris not being there. He says he's being mistreated. It's a part that didn't make sense. He's like, you said no, she's not coming, and I was promised I was brought here on false pretenses. You weren't. It's not false pretenses. When you agreed to come to NABJ, it probably was when Joe Biden was still the nominee. If you're saying that you were told it was either going to be Biden or Kamala. If it was afterward, then Biden had nothing to do with it, and you're just bringing that up to, again, make it seem like you've been cheated. Donald Trump has a narrative brewing right now that he was cheated, right? And he said it in the interview multiple times, right? That I was supposed to be going against Joe Biden. And he said Joe Biden is like a prize fighter who, even though he's losing the fight, and he brought the debate up as an example, instead of fighting to the end, they try to bring in a new boxer. He should have fought to the end. He's right now using it to disparage Joe Biden, but more fundamentally, he's saying, hey, I'm in the 8th round of a fight, and now you're bringing a fresh new fighter. I'm being cheated. Donald Trump always reserves the right to complain about the process. In the first election against Hillary, he said Hillary cheated, crooked Hillary, the elections are rigged. And then when he won, he says, I win despite the elections being rigged. When he loses against Joe Biden in 2020, he says they're rigged. and I lost. And so let's reshape American political processes so that I can be the winner. Or if not, let's have an insurrection, right? Like this is where we ended up messing with Donald Trump in this particular case around the stuff. You notice he called her Kamala. He used the name properly a couple of times. He said Kamala. Other times he said Kamala. Every time he spoke, you heard groans in the audience. You heard him when he said Kamala instead of Kamala. When he said, I love the black population. He talked about us like we were like aliens, right? When he talked about doing more for us than Lincoln. And there's visible disgust in the crowd. And then there were a few handkerchief-head Negroes out there who clapped for Donald Trump. I gotta admit. And I was like, who did he mentioned Tim Scott's opportunity zones. I figured Tim Scott might be there, or a Tim Scott-like figure who was over there clapping like a seal. But it was at least 100. It was no. I heard at least 10 people clapping for Donald Trump. And I said, wow. This is unfortunate. And I'm not going to belabor this anymore, but there was a series of statements that Donald Trump made that were simply wrong. He talked about Democrats aborting babies after they come out in the 9th month. That's bullshit. It's absolutely, completely bullshit. He talked about his political record with HBCUs grossly misrepresenting what he did and what he did not do. When he talked about the black jobs, which they kind of jumped in on, he ignored the fact that the jobs that Mexican Americans and other people who are coming, or Mexicans who are coming across the border, that they're taking are actually not jobs that would have otherwise been taken by Black Americans. They're actually not taking our jobs. That's just a fascist tactic. All of this is Donald Trump lying to the people with no pushback. Now, I know there's no live fact checking, but damn, y'all could have jumped in a little bit. At some point, Donald Trump just bullied everybody and just kept yapping and wasn't fought against.